And greetings, friends. Today I want to talk to you about Acts, the 9th chapter, the 22nd chapter, and the 26th chapter that talks about the conversion of the Apostle Paul. Of course, everybody knows the story about Saul, who became the Apostle Paul later. Saul going towards Damascus, looking for Christians. And at that time, when he was going towards Damascus, Jesus Christ of Nazareth stopped him dead in his tracks and revealed himself to Saul. And after the Apostle Paul became blind, and when his blindness went away, he got baptized, he got converted, received the Holy Spirit, and he started preaching the gospel to the nations afterwards. Now, people, when they look at the three versions in Acts 9, 22, and 26, many people think that some of these scriptures contradict one another. But really, when you put it all together, they actually are in harmony one with the other. But I'm going to show you the scriptures where people think that they contradict one another. In Acts the 9th chapter, verse 7, it says this, "And the men which journeyed with him," that's the Apostle Paul, "stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man." Then here in Acts 22nd chapter, verse 9, it says this, "And they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me." So here it says in Acts the 9th chapter that they heard a voice, but in Acts 22 it says they didn't hear a voice. And then in Acts 26, it says this, "And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" It says here that they were all fallen to the earth, but back here in Acts 9, it says that they stood speechless. Now, do all these passages contradict one another? Absolutely not. When you put all the stories together, it doesn't. Now, let's start with the first so-called problem. It says in Acts 26, it says, "And when we were all fallen to the earth." So it says they were all fallen to the earth, but it says here that they stood speechless. Is it a contradiction? Absolutely not. Notice what McGarvey's commentary says. It says, "The first effect of such an apparition would naturally be to, of course, fall down to the earth. But his companions, not being held in this position by any direct address to them," Jesus Christ was not addressing everybody, he was just addressing the Apostle Paul, "would naturally arise after the first shock was over, and fleeing to a safe distance there, stand gazing," and this is what we see in Acts 9, "stand gazing in mute terror upon the glory which enveloped their leader," which is the light. They didn't see a man, they saw a light. So they stood speechless. So they fell to the ground, they picked themselves up, they went to a safe place, and then they stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. They didn't see a man, they saw a light. But it says here they heard a voice, but back here in Acts, the 22nd chapter, verse 9, it says that they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. So did they hear a voice or did they not hear a voice? Which one is it? Well, when you look at this Greek word, akouo, it has a double meaning. And in Thomas Coke's commentary, it says this is easily reconciled with the present passage, talking about Acts 9, by the double sense of the Greek word. There's a double sense of this Greek word. This word can be understood in two ways. It could mean that they heard a noise or a sound, or it could mean understanding a message. And when you look at the context of both scriptures, you will find that this context means that they heard a sound, they heard a noise, but seeing no man. And then notice what the Apostle Paul says here. "But they heard not the voice of him that spake to me." They didn't understand the message. So back here, they heard a noise, and here the Apostle Paul says that they didn't understand the message that was being conveyed to me by Jesus Christ. And the NIV version of the Bible puts it this way in Acts 22:9. It says, "My companions saw the light, but they did not understand the voice of him who was speaking to me." So in Acts 9, they heard a sound. They didn't see a man. In Acts 22, they didn't understand the message that was being conveyed to the Apostle Paul. So there is no contradiction whatsoever in these scriptures.